just a streaming dirtbag, baby. Come to my live stream, don't say maybe. It never ends till you go crazy. I'm just a streaming dirtbag, baby. Come to my live stream, don't say maybe. It never ends till you go crazy. Thank you, Uncle Remus. Thank you, Wesley. And thank you, everybody who came. Now that's a franchise I'd watch.
I think you know why you are here. There's a part of you that the normies fear. Know the truth is what you see, so we welcome you to the home of geeks, of the oddball, the neglected, the outcast, the rejected. We're all here to celebrate as you track away rebels in the wonders and the strange. Whenever we are here, we see clear, there's no fear. Into this study, every nerd has a voice to be heard. 'Cause here everyone's up, there's no need to be a pack-led. We've done away with all the hatred. Every show you love is here, so kick back, grab a beer. Plenty of discussion, no agenda that we're pushing. We're ready to celebrate. Turn it steady, every nerd has a voice to be heard. 'Cause here everyone's a turd. We are a sci-fi menagerie. We've got every alien from A to Z. We know this is where you want to be. We're the greatest channel in the galaxy. Anti-track away, rebels in the wonders and the strange. Whenever we are here, we see clear, there's no fear. Into the study, every nerd has a voice to be heard. 'Cause here everyone's a turd. Oh yeah.
Taking a break from hating JJ sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to just get laid? Sometimes you wanna go where all the Trekkies know your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna be in a galaxy where Star Trek isn't lame. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Yes! Lucarora!
Thank you, Chancellor. Hey, guys. How's everybody doing? Michael J. Crawford here. And yes, that was Aberjam with a rough cut of the Anti-Trekker Rain song. But the rough cut of your song sounds 100 times better than anything else I could have thrown there, so I threw it up there. Thomas was first in the house. Good to see you, Thomas. Commander Ironwolf, a quick second, says, hey. Carlo was third with hi. Dan23 says hi. Number one sci-fi says what's happening. And Thomas says it's not 11 p.m. Well, it's Wednesday. I usually don't stream at 11 p.m. on Wednesdays because on Wednesdays I'm on Midnight's Edge at 6. Remember, that hasn't changed, at least not yet. You know, they haven't kicked me out or anything yet. And yesterday I meant to do a morning live stream, but just too much crap happened and I couldn't get it done, and so I apologize for that. JP says hello, or hello, Jello. Carlos says, hope everyone is well. John says, greetings. Commander Shran says hello to everyone. Yosef says, good evening from the future. And Piano Dean, good to see you, my friend, says, Bird is quite a singer. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Rambling Canuck says hello to everyone. Edwin says, hope everyone having a great day or night around the world. Indeed. Dan says, editing can make people quite a singer or not. Yeah, I don't think that editing is Bird's problem. And J. Pez says, oh, fancy pants light show. Well, actually, I had that light show before on the the awesome song that Aberjam did, Hotel Turdistani. It says that one got blocked, you know, worldwide by Warner Brothers. So rather than, you know, I did put in a dispute on the video that they blocked, but, you know, I don't feel like going through that hassle every freaking live stream. Dr. Alex says, jazz. Nice. Piano Dean says, yeah, you're about 12 hours early. No, actually, this is the regular time for Wednesday. Fleet Paw Swiftback says, isn't it a little early for you? What? When have I ever... every Wednesday, I do an early live stream. This has not changed. Ever. So, well, it's probably like... maybe it hasn't changed at least in like the last year. Bird of Prey says 3 minutes, 30 seconds. That's enough time to watch a Lore Reloaded video. Indeed. Pretty close. Peter says, hi, Heidi, go Anti-Trekker. I'm on my new HD. What? Not sure exactly what you meant there, Peter. Valor says, good morning, Turdistan. How you doing, Valor? Peter says, mostly painless to get going. Well, mostly painless is mostly good. And people saying Kaplata Bird for whatever reason. I thought that said Anti-Trekker resigns. No, I did not. Your cheer song gets stuck in my head after your vids. Good day, all. Hey, Surf, and don't thank me. You can thank Piano Dean and Aberjam for that. Valor says, Mr. Miles always first. I'm always awesome. And Dr. Alex is smart and anti-forever cuter than Baby Yoda. Correct on all accounts. Yes, Dr. Alex is very smart, and he's extra smart for being English. And Fleetpaw puts a $1.99 into the chat, and of course, for whatever reason, Streamlabs is slow, but so any second now it's going to pop up with the little thing. But it says, sorry, Anti-Trekker, for my insolence. I'm usually asleep now. That's not insolence. That's not insolence. It's ignorance. Get your terminology right.
Hello, world.
And there it goes. And there's nothing to forgive there, my friend. The only You know what? Ignorance is not a sin. It's being willingly ignorant that is. Ah, see? Ooh. Most I already read that. I already read that. Awesome new song, Anti-Tricker Reigns. Indeed, that is Mr. Aberjam put that together. I gave him the music and just said, "Hey, do what you want with it," and that's what he came up with. That is still, according to him, a rough draft, but waiting for the final draft eventually. On the radio, some movie website has been updated to mention a new Spider-Man spin-off movie was on the way. Okay, I hadn't heard that specifically. Jeff says, hi, last again. You're not last, because see, right behind you is Alexander. Says, I'm here, yes, the new wrench of Bird of Prey 5 was very good at it. Wow. Aberjam says, greetings, oh great Turtistani. I didn't expect to, as she, I assume it's probably hear the rough cut of the final version in the next few days. No problem, Aberjam. You take your time. Like I said, I needed to put something there because since I couldn't put Hotel Turtistani, I could have put a coin to your trekker, but we used that for a while, and then this song was so good, I just wanted to use it. So, time for the big shoe, says Peter. Yes, indeed. The Simpsons also did their own version of the Cheers intro for Flaming Moe's. Yes, indeed. There's a place where you get drunk. Thomas says, this timer just makes you fall behind in the chat. That's true, but I also, there's a reason to it, because generally speaking, like Bird does a countdown timer on his live streams. Most people do, because if you just bam, start and get right into it, then people, and it happens even with the timer, but where people will be 5 minutes into the stream and just joining up and then ask you a question that you answered 5 minutes ago. So a way to avoid that is to have a little bit of a buffer where you set up the initial time for people to get into the live stream thing. Just that a little bit. Auntie is diligently sleeping as always. It's time for the Anti-Tricker Show, says Fleet Paw. Juan says, hi all, nice to see you live again. Well, that certainly does beat the alternative. Alexander says, can you remember to everyone that I accept all the mint Jar Jar Binks action figures of episode 1. The sender just has to pay the shipping. Indeed, if you have a Jar Jar Binks action figure and you're looking to get rid of it, Alexander wants it for some reason. And Peter does point out this is the regular time, more or less. Yes. Carlos says it's Tuesday. I'm pretty sure it's Wednesday. Don't mess with me now, Carlo, because I'm pretty tired. I'm in the UK, so sometimes Anti-Tricker does a live stream when it's afternoon. Yes, I understand. So and that's the thing. I know of a lot of people in the UK, so it gets confusing. But for me, it's late morning on Wednesday. So wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, I can't control. But for me, that's the only time that I can go by. Peter says hard drive. Well, I figured that's probably what you meant, but I still wasn't sure what you meant first time on the new HD, or because, okay, unless you're on that computer, talking to me, I guess that would make sense. Bird of Prey, Martok is coming for you indeed. Kuroga has very little time left. Darren says, good morning, Mr. Day Off. Missed you yesterday. Yeah, sorry about that. I meant to do a live stream yesterday, but just wasn't in the cards. I did do a special guest appearance on Orville Nation last night, where we were talking to Paul Jenkins, director of the upcoming Axanar short film, the Star Trek Axanar short film, as well as comic book writer. And it was an interesting conversation, but I have to say that it was enlightening in that I think that I'm beginning to understand a little bit more about what's wrong with Star Trek. Not just Star Trek, but Star Wars and everything else. Sorry, I dropped the allergy pill. Wouldn't want the dog to get a hold of it. So the problem, and that's kind of where the title of this came from. The problem is that when I talked to him during the live stream, I mentioned the idea of like he created a character just for fun while they were doing Axanar, called Captain F Nuts, and I'm sure you can imagine what the real word was. I said the real word on the other stream, but generally I try not to cuss on this stream unless something really gets me worked up. And Captain F Nuts was this like completely screwed up captain, and he was completely incompetent. It was just kind of for fun, right? And so he's talking about they're going to do a little series of Captain F Nuts and how it's going to be funny and silly and all that. And so I kind of asked him, well, what would you think if CBS approached you and wanted you to do Captain F Nuts as an actual canonized Trek show, and then kind of compared that to The Trouble with Edward short Trek? To which he thought that would be awesome. Why? Because writers want to push boundaries, right? That's from, at least in his mind, it's a good thing to do it because it had never been done before. And that's what it kind of clicked in my head, is that the problem here is that these writers have no respect for the franchise. Now, we knew that, of course, but it's not that they have no respect because they thought it was bad or they didn't care. It's that they have no reverence for it. They don't think that what came before is important. What's important is what you do now is something new and different. The funny thing is that he actually also tried to say that change for change's sake is not a good thing. That if you're going to change something, it should have some kind of purpose to it. Like if you're going to redesign the Klingons, there should be a reason you redesign the Klingons, not just changing it to say that you have your own version of the Klingons. But and that you should try to capture what is the spirit of the franchise if you're working on a franchise piece, right? So if you're working in Star Trek, you should understand the spirit of Star Trek. Do you have to know every bit of lore and canon that came before you? According to him, no. But what you should know is, at least what the what the spirit of Trek is, what it's all about, and then you can work forward. And I can kind of see that to a certain extent. But the simple fact that he thinks that Captain F Nuts would be a great canonized Star Trek concept if CBS would allow it to happen tells me that he doesn't get it. And no offense to Mr. Jenkins. I mean, I'm sure he's a much better writer than I am, I'm sure. And Yosef puts in a couple of bucks. Thank you so much, Yosef. Said, weird stream name, a Dumas, the Three Musketeers. No, Mr. Dumas, as in dumbass. But yeah, sorry, Yosef. I know that if English is not your primary language, that might be a little weird. But no, there was not a Three Musketeers reference. It was like the Dumassery of Men is what the name of the stream really is. And I'll get to the chat in a minute, but I want to get on this diatribe off here. So herein lies the problem, is that to get good writers, you're going to get people like Mr. Jenkins, who believes that doing things like, and a good example here, and is that he was talking about how he's an audacious writer, and in saying so, he says that when he's writing a comic book, what is the more audacious thing to do? To have a superhero and a supervillain punch each other, or to have them sit down at Starbucks and have a conversation over a cup of coffee? And so he thinks that, oh, how clever and artistic and wonderful and new and different it is if we just have 6 pages of a comic book of a couple of people sitting over Starbucks and drinking their coffee. No! Then, if that's what you want to write about, that's fine. But you know what? That's why the comic book industry is a dying industry, quite frankly. And no offense to you, it's not your fault specifically. But if you really think that what comic books need is a slice of life of two people having coffee and talking about their day, then you have no clue as to what comic books are. Yes, you need superheroes punching supervillains. That's what comic books are, at least superhero comics. If you want to do two people having cups of coffee, go write for Archie, all right, or whatever. But don't write for the freaking Fantastic Four or the Avengers or whatever. It makes no effing sense. You're trying to fundamentally change what the genre is just so that you can say how audacious you are. No, that's not audacious. That's stupid. Now, out of respect for Mr. Jenkins, I didn't say that during the live stream last night because I'm a polite person. And it was not my live stream. So if Mr. Jenkins was here on my channel and it was just him and me talking, I probably would have challenged him a bit on that. But I, quite frankly, I find that level of contempt for the status quo. Changing the status quo can be a good thing if the status quo is broken. But the problem is that they broke the status quo by changing it, 20 plus years ago. And people like him are just taking it to the next level. All right, so that's my diatribe about my conversation with Mr. Jenkins. And again, I don't have a problem with him personally. He seemed like a nice enough guy, very intelligent guy, and I'm sure, like I said, much better writer than I ever could be. But at the same time, I see him as symptomatic of what's wrong with our franchises today, after talking to him. And again, it's not. I'm looking forward to seeing Axanar under his direction. I really am. But if he thinks that simply being audacious enough to do a comic book about people drinking coffee is clever in some way, then yeah, he and I have a very different idea of what good entertainment is. Darren says, good morning, Mr. Day Off. Missed you yesterday. I already read that. That Supernova video didn't end the argument. Yeah, unfortunately, some of you guys are too dumb to understand what Dr. Alex said. Wesley says, greetings, turds, birds, and root canals suck. Indeed, they do. Darren says that Dr. Alex sure is a slick devil on the mic, isn't he? Give him a hand. He's British, indeed. Good Galaxy Quest reference there. Nathan says, I saw the Harley Quinn movie and I can never get that time back. Now there's too many bland moments and not enough high points, and the fight choreography was the worst I've seen. I don't know about the fight choreography. I've heard that it's not a horrible movie, but that it's not a great movie either. And so, yeah. I'm not interested. And besides, in the words of Brie Larson, that movie's not made for me. Number One Sci-Fi says, I'm glad that you had the hubris to challenge Bird of Prey. Well, who doesn't? That's easy. Alexander says, Asian Muslim wife born in the USSR is the best choice. Of course you say that. John DeMarco says, interesting video about the supernova. The Romulan star can be seen on Nemesis. It looks like a yellow star, not big enough for a supernova. Well, that's assuming, of course, that, and I understand what you're saying, John, but we don't know exactly what stage that star, maybe, who knows? Maybe there is a misunderstanding. Maybe it's a different type of star that we haven't seen before. Who knows? It's sci-fi, magic, space magic, Star Trek stuff. But they did specifically call it a supernova, and as such, if it was truly a supernova, regardless of the coloration of the star, I think Dr. Alex's argument about the definitively stating what a supernova is compared to a nova kind of ends that. Did you think what I sent you is enough to fool the bots into not even recognizing it? Not sure, Piano Dean, but you know what? If it, I bet you that it probably will be, but even if it's not, don't worry, we'll win that one. That's an easy one to win. So I would move forward, my friend. And wow, I'm gonna butcher your name. Is that Texeray? Put 10 pounds in there? Thank you so much, my friend. And says, the Romulans have astronomy as good as ours. They wouldn't settle next to a supernova candidate. They have been seen many light years away, over 600 in the case of Betelgeuse. Well, that's an interesting point, and I think a valid concern. However, and to one person that said that something like that in the chat of the video, let me ask you this. And there's of course, the announcement, because the thing is so far delayed. I don't know why. But let me ask you this. Do we know 100% of the secrets of the universe? Or can things catch us by surprise? Perfect example, volcanoes, right? We understand volcanoes. We understand for the most part how they work. Can a volcanic eruption still catch us off guard? Has it ever happened? Answer, yes. You know what? With all our incredible seismic understanding, can we predict earthquakes? Not very accurately. Now, granted, those are terrestrial events, not stellar events. But here's the thing. The same is true of the universe at large. Yes, we understand, for example, Betelgeuse. We have a good idea that it's going to go supernova, blah, blah, blah. And we can figure that out based on our current theoretical data on the life cycle of stars. Does that mean we understand the life cycle of every star out there? Does that mean we have actually officially and perfectly cataloged every type of star that exists? Is it possible that there are star types out there that we haven't considered? Is it possible that there are, in fact, factors that we haven't considered? So there are about 1 million different factors that could fool someone into thinking that the star system was going to be stable, but it really wasn't. And so I gotta say, I think that, and basically at this point, and don't get me wrong, I'm not, and I believe me, I appreciate the super chat, and I appreciate the challenge there. But the problem is that it gets to a point where we just are trying to look for reasons that it won't work, because we don't like the show. Now, if you don't like Picard, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever. If you love Picard, that's perfectly fine. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I happen to fall in the category of I like Picard, but I don't love Picard. However, in the context of Trek, they have done about 1 billion different things that are scientifically wrong. And that goes all the way back to the original series, through TNG, through Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise. Every Star Trek show has done stupid things when it comes to science. Every single one of them. And yet we're ultimately very forgiving of it until now. All of a sudden, now don't get me wrong, I am not defending Discovery, but all of a sudden we're getting all worked up about sonar in space from Discovery, right? And I was one of them, I admit it. I bit into the hate train a little bit with Discovery. But here's the problem. If you're going to get pissed off over sonar in space and Discovery, then why the hell aren't people pissed off about sound in space in the original series? Because that happened in Balance of Terror, right? Why is it that people don't get worked up over all the technical mistakes made over all the years of Trek? The answer is they don't, because most of the time we enjoy it as just for what it is, entertainment. However, when it's something we want to dislike, we tend to pick it to death. And that's kind of what the underlying purpose of my nitpicking video was, which is so ironic. The way that the internet is because I put out that nitpicking video and about 8 million people said, wait, it's a dream sequence. Don't you understand? That doesn't count. Okay, fine. So, but then if I put out a video defending it, saying it's a dream sequence, they say, oh, well, you're just saying that because you love Picard. We all know it sucks. It's like, it's hilarious to me. So, yeah. Granted, the people that tend to comment are people that disagree. So no matter what, you're going to get a little bit of a confirmation bias. But thank you for the super chat. I truly appreciate it, and I apologize for butchering your name as badly as I clearly did. Alexander says, the best subscribers send ketchup chips. I do thank you for the ketchup chips, Alexander. I haven't tried this particular one yet, but the other 2 bags are gone. And so, yeah, good stuff. And then another $5 says, I think to better science and Trek, they should have had it in an act of war and accident. Plenty of tech Trek could do, like proto-matter. I get that, and I know that some people argued that that's actually in Star Trek Online. And that would make a certain amount of sense. But here's the thing. Let's say, hypothetically, the supernova was caused by protomatter. It was caused by, oh gosh, what was the thing that Soren was doing in Generations? I don't think that was trilithium, a trilithium detonation device. There are a million reasons you could come up with that the star could have gone supernova without forewarning. Now, who knows? Because here's the thing. The show isn't over yet. For all we know, they'll find out later on down the road that the Tal Shiar was behind it, or maybe Section 31. Like, let's say, and this would actually be an interesting story. What if Section 31 got their hands on Dr. Soren's research and launched a trilithium warhead into the Romulan sun? Right? We don't know. We genuinely don't know. All we know at this point is that there was a supernova event and that the Romulan Empire is in trouble. The purpose of my video was not to argue over the realism of the supernova happening. It was the argument that many people have been throwing left and right. And the funny thing is, all of a sudden, everybody, of course, immediately moves the goalposts. Right? As soon as I put out Dr. Alex's explanation, everybody moves the goalposts instantly. That it's no longer about the destructive force of the supernova, but now it's about whether or not the supernova could happen at all. Or some people try to argue about the time factor, that if it's a 50 light year radius, it would take 50 years for the entire Romulan Empire to be affected, assuming the Romulan Empire is 50 light years across. So, instantaneous movement of the goalposts, because I pretty much buried the argument that a supernova couldn't do it. But that's neither here nor there. But the thing is that why are we even having this argument? Honestly, it's not. This is not by any stretch of the imagination the worst thing that even in Good Trek we've seen as far as scientific inaccuracies. And maybe, Dr. Alex, you and I are going to probably have to do an entire series of stuff just on scientific inaccuracies just to make this point. Berta Praise says, Anti-Trekker's hubris will be his undoing. Yeah, my effing hubris. By the way, I'm still pissed at you about that video about Shaban today. Wesley, is this early for you? No, but some people think it is. Light with Matthew says, good morning, Anti-Trekker and all. Hey, Light with Matthew, good to see you. And let's see. Thomas says, why won't Kurogan say Martok is a changeling to his face? Because they know he's not. They know that the only time Martok was a changeling was when he said, Hail, Kuroga. Dan23 says, Star Trek TNG, the enemy is on TV right now. Do you think Geordi LaForge visor should come off when he falls down a hole and gets knocked down, or do you think that's ridiculous? It does seem a little ridiculous that his visor is not better attached. Like, why doesn't he have like a headband type of thing behind his head, so even if it did like come loose from those little attachments, that it would just fall around his neck. The fact that he could stumble and his eyes fall out and are on the floor, and he has to like go around looking like Velma from Scooby-Doo trying to find his glasses is absolutely stupid. Fleet Paw puts a $1.99. Case in point, Janeway Torres in episode 2 of Voyager. Fleetpaw, I'm sure you're making a brilliant point there, and the problem is that, and I know the super chats don't allow you to put a lot on there unless you pay a ton of money, which I understand, and I'm not expecting you to do that. But do me a favor and put in a regular chat what specifically you're talking about the Janeway/Taurus did in episode 2 of Voyager that I'm not thinking of. Aberjam says, autocorrect is my nemesis. Glad you're able to muddle through it. Warp particles. Oh, I don't even remember the warp particles, but yeah. Voyager, the worst technobabble of any Star Trek series. I know Captain Redneck loves Voyager, and I don't have a problem with that. But I'm sorry, Voyager was the worst when it came to technobabble. But thank you, Fleetpaw, once again. Wesley says, remind everyone to send me their Jar Jar figures so I can melt them down on a live stream. Well, there you go. So if you want to preserve the Jar Jar figures, send them to Alexander. If you want them to be melted down, you send them to Wesley, which is kind of ironic if you think about it. Wesley Crusher, the Jar Jar Binks of the Star Trek franchise, wants to melt down Jar Jar Binks action figures. Anybody else see the irony in that? And Alexander says, maybe we'll see again in the West Edmonton Mall. I'm not sure what you mean there. And Darren says, just finished my usual coconut and pico de gallo omelet, and I'm ready to watch Anti-Tricker over my Highlander grog coffee. Well, that sounds like a very spicy morning. Yeah, much fun this afternoon. Installing Windows, etc. was nice and quick. Yeah, I know. Installing Windows is such a pain. Sorry, man, my allergies are just driving me crazy today. Darren says, I'll have to check out the Orville Nation Paul Jenkins show. It was actually, I know, Darren, that you already had some bias against the man. I haven't read any of his work. But just talking to him, I mean, the hubris of the writer. And that's why what pissed me off about Bird's live stream, or Bird's video this morning, because I was going to do an entire video, not just about Paul Jenkins, but about Shaban and Kurtzman and thus the hubris of writers. Captain Redneck says, does Orville Nation do regular YouTube uploads or just live streams? He does mostly just live streams. But I'm trying to encourage him to do regular videos as well. Darren says, I've already made it known now how I feel about the decisions Paul Jenkins has made. Great characters in Marvel, so is Captain F. Nuts' idea is not a surprise to me. Yeah. Nathan says, he said it was awesome, not lowers my expectations for Axonar several times over. Not me, because talking to him, here's the thing, Axonar, I think it'll be good. But we'll see, because he really appreciated what they did with Axonar the first time around. But the problem is that I could tell listening to him, and my one concern about Axonar is that it's not that you have to be an expert on it, because there really isn't much information there as far as, the 4 Years' War and what Captain Garth did. There really isn't a lot of information, only that it happened. And the problem is that he didn't even seem to know that Garth was a featured character in a TOS episode. So that in and of itself seemed to be a problem. The writers think they're better than the old franchise writers. That is a problem, Galdorn, indeed. And that is, they think they can improve upon it by changing it radically, and nothing could be further from the truth. You improve upon it by building upon it, not by tearing down and deconstructing what came before. Yeah. Valor says, I'm looking forward to Valentine's Day. It's been working on a surprise for Vivian. Can't say anything more than that about that. Very cool. I hope that it goes well. I am not looking forward to Valentine's Day because I will be working. Nathan says, writers don't take into account the weight of history nor the real effects of what writing would be in the real world scenario. No, they don't. They don't care. And it really bugs me, because I understand part of what he's saying. Do you have to, for example, if Marvel Comics approached me and said, oh, we want you to write Spider-Man now, does that mean I have to go back and read every single Spider-Man comic ever? Well, it's not even possible at this point. By the time I read through all the Spider-Man comics, it'd be time for me to retire. So I don't know that there's a simple solution when it gets that convoluted of a history. But you should at least understand the major events, right? And so, or do a reboot. That's, yeah. Fleetball says, personally, I celebrate Singles Awareness Day on February 14th. Well, good luck with that, my friend. Alexander says, 2000 AD does good things. Dynamite and Avatar also understand comic books. Well, I don't know what 2000 AD is, but as far as Dynamite and Avatar, are you talking, those aren't people, those are companies. and them understand. It's not about understanding comic books. It's about understanding the characters and the history. Peter says, "Hey, Enter, sitting in a shawarma joint in the post-credit scene is great." I've never had shawarma. Never have. Even after seeing Avengers, never had a shawarma. Wesley says, Professor Xavier and Magneto having tea. Now, that would be a good comic. I could see that, but I mean, like, if you're just having... Yeah, you know, Reed Richards and Sue sitting down having breakfast, and here's the thing: they do that kind of stuff in the Fantastic Four, but not as a whole issue. And Aberjam throws a couple of pounds in and says, "Secret recording a bird's love for she-males." Let me see if I can find that secret recording, because yes, indeed. It is true that we do, in fact, have a secret recording of Bird's love of she-males. And so let me see if I can bring that up. Is it this one? No, that's not it. Man, you got a lot of stuff here. Oh, here it is. All right, here you go, Aberjam.
I have sex with she-males every day. I love having sex with she-males.
So it is true.
I have sex with she-males every day. I love having sex with she-males.
That Bird Opre 5 said that. Can't wait for Friday. My girlfriend will receive her gift. Very good. Mike Richards is here from Columbus, Ohio. Good to see you, my friend. SC says, is Accident ever coming out, or are they still selling badges begging for funds? I don't know about the begging for funds part, SC, but I do know that according to Paul, it's they're shooting for a San Diego Comic-Con release. There is no such thing at Trigger as good or bad entertainment. Either something is entertaining or it isn't. Just that simple. I disagree. Sorry, MC. I disagree. I think that an entertainment product that fails to entertain a significant number of people is bad entertainment. On the flip side, an entertainment product that does entertain a significant number of people is a good entertainment product. And by the way, I don't like all the relativism and nihilism out there, and that's part of the problem with what I was hearing from Paul. Like, he actually said during the conversation that right and wrong are subjective. No, they're not. You know, so you're going to write for a superhero comic book with the attitude that right and wrong is subjective? You're in the wrong line of work, buddy. If you really, really want to write for fricking Spider-Man or Fantastic Four or Avengers or any of that, and you think that right and wrong is subjective, you are definitely in the wrong line of work. If I can't recognize my lovely Black Canary, I don't want to see the movie. Well, then you probably shouldn't see the movie. Nathan says, I'm calling foul play on the Supernova. S-31 probably did it to eliminate the Romulans as a future threat to the Federation. Well, that is, I suggested that earlier, Nathan, and I don't have a problem with that. Could be a possibility. Scientific literature cites 50 to 100 light years as the closest safe distance between Earth and a supernova, so several star systems. More than several, Peter. And in fact, that's why, like Dr. Alex pointed out, within 50 light years of Earth are about, 1,500 stars, I believe he said? So, yeah. So a lot more than several. Charles puts $5 in, says, tossing a few coins for our trekker. Happy to catch a daytime stream. Hope the back is getting better. What time is Picard number 4 expected to drop? Well, it drops late tonight, early tomorrow, my friend. And so I'm going to continue the routine I've been doing the last 3 weeks. So I will be getting up in the middle. I'm going to go to bed as early as I can. Get up as early as I can, watch it, do a live stream reaction, and then do some kind of video for tomorrow morning, which is what I've done the last 3 weeks running. And I will continue to do so until I either drop dead or the show finishes. I guess you think Beetlejuice will kill us. It's only about 700 light years away. What are you talking about, Thomas? how does that follow from anything that I've said or anything that Dr. Alex said? 50 light year radius. Betelgeuse is 700 light years away. So no, I don't think that it will kill us. So where are you getting that? John says, before supernova happens, the star would expand to a red supergiant, which is not a process that happens overnight. Well, actually, John, there are different types of stars, and Dr. Alex can explain this far better than I can. But you're talking about a main sequence star like our sun would expand out to a red giant before it goes nova. That is not a supernova event. That is a nova event. Two very different things. What is going on today? Oh, people arguing about things that they're not experts on against people who are. Is it true? Sorry. And don't get me wrong. Maybe you're right about that. I don't know, I don't know the full life cycle of every type of star, so I don't know what a B-type or O-type star, how their nova process works as opposed to a G-type star like the sun. But I do understand that the way you're describing it sounds like a G-type star. I also don't know what type of star Betelgeuse was in the past. I don't know if it was, and so... I'm not an expert on that. So yeah. And yes, Mako, volcanoes are different than supernovas, but the point of that is not that volcanoes are the same as supernovas. The point is that we don't know everything. And I'm sorry, but to pretend we know everything is the height of hubris. That is, do you really think we know everything about freaking stars? We've never, how many stars have we actually collected a sample of? The answer is 0. All right, we have, and so we do not know everything. We really don't know everything. And so for anybody that thinks we know everything, I'm sorry, you're being stupid. And don't get me wrong, doesn't mean I think you are stupid. You're just being stupid if you think we know everything there is to know. And Orville Nation is here, says, Anti-Checker rocks. Feel better with your back. Thank you, Orville. I appreciate it. Had fun on your stream last night, even if I disagree with Mr. Jenkins. I enjoyed the conversation, and I bit my tongue and did not say what I was thinking a couple of times. Let's see... is it true that there could be a large diamond at the center of the Earth? Will we ever find out there is? I don't know. I'm not a geologist. My sister's a geologist, actually. You could ask her. I don't know what the composition of the, I always heard it was an iron core, but ask an expert. Don't ask me about that. Alexander says, the Yellowstone Park is a massive volcano. It erupt. 2/3 of the USA will be inhabitable. The entire climate will change from the entire planet. Well, people have argued that if the Yellowstone supervolcano actually erupted, that it would wipe out pretty much humanity. I don't know how much truth there is to that, or how much of it is the paranoid delusions of Woody Harrelson. Let's see. And SC, thank you, says, Mako, volcanoes and supernovas are still acts of nature, don't always follow mathematical models. Yes, that's the point. Sister says, I know Memory Alpha is not a good source, but they explain supernova being unique. The shockwave was traveling faster than light speed, something that we know does not happen. Yeah, the problem is that the Memory Alpha thing, they're trying to rectify some of the problems, right? No matter what, you're going to run into problems, and that's, again, nothing new in Trek, and that's something that people... I really don't understand this, and nobody is addressing this. You guys are, don't get me wrong. Any of you guys that want to argue about this stuff, that's fine, but please address this. Why are you being so damn nitpicky about the physics of a supernova when you're not being that nitpicky over all the crap that they served you in Voyager? All right, and all the crap that they served you in Next Gen? You're perfectly fine with eating all that crap, But oh my God, they're slightly off base with a supernova, and we're going to act like it's the worst thing ever. The fact is that people are making these arguments because they want to hate the show, not because it really is that egregious a thing. Because if you compare the supernova data to what we've seen in the past in Trek, this is nothing, people. This is nothing. And I genuinely don't understand why people are getting that worked up about it. I really don't. John says, I don't hate Picard, by the way. I would also nitpick older Star Trek when it has stupid science like Threshold. Well, Threshold is in a class by itself, by the way. And by the way, if you look at almost every time they talk about evolution on Star Trek, they are way the hell off base. They do not understand evolution. I mean, even the whole thing, for all the way back to Who Watches the Watchers, season 1 of, I think it was season 1, was it season? Yeah, it was season 1, I think, of TNG. Who Watches the Watchers? Evolution don't work that way, people. You don't have Vulcans evolve on a different planet. But whatever. The TMP Connie had sonar. Yeah, they did. Well, they did call it photo sonar, so I guess that would explain it. Sound in space wasn't integral to the story and Balance of Terror. Wrong answer, Bird. Rewatch the episode. Both the Romulan commander and Kirk were being very careful to make sure that their crew was being quiet so they didn't hear the other ship. So, yes, it was an integral part of the story. It was stupid, but, you know, the rest of the episode was so freaking awesome that it didn't matter. Meiko says, the original series was a gangster planet and Kirk riding a dwarf. Let's be real. Do people care about scientific accuracy in TOS? People don't care. That's the thing, Meiko. The scientific accuracy is wrong in every single Trek show. It's just bad across the board. But people, you see, here's the problem, is that we're under a delusion that Star Trek, all the Star Trek stuff is scientifically accurate, because compared to Star Wars, it is. Right? If you compare the Trek science to Star Wars science, then Trek seems like hardcore sci-fi compared to Star Wars. However, if you want to look at a scientifically more accurate show, watch something like The Fricking Expanse. Let's see. Where were we? Does anyone know how fast a supernova expands? Well, actually, the radiation from a supernova goes at exactly 1 light year per year. In Voyager, don't look for logic. I was looking for 7 of 9. Well, at least you're honest about that, Alexander. The best and sooner, the best and sooner to happen, the most supernova to happen, anti-checker will be. The best and sooner to happen than most supernova to happen. You lost me, Peter. Thomas says, I see you used the star chart I told you about, admit it's canon. No, I don't admit it's canon. I admit it's what I had available. As far as canon, the problem is that the only canonical information we have is that the Romulan Empire is one system, although in Next Gen, they refer to planetary systems within the neutral zone, so that there's a conflict there, but we don't have a good canonical source of a map. The only canonical map that we see in any detail is from TOS. IK Pegasi only 150 light years from Earth. Is Pegasi now a white dwarf? I don't know. I'm not a freaking stellar cartographer, Peter. You're asking the wrong guy. Ask Dr. Alex. I don't know. Dr. Alex, are you still here? And if you are, is Pegasi a white dwarf? If people are watching Trek for science lesson, they'll be sadly informed. Well, unfortunately, that's what it seems like. Because, you know, and here's the thing. I don't mind nitpicking. I really don't. But I insist that we nitpick everything. That's what, you know, people are, to this day, people insist that I absolutely hate Star Trek First Contact because of my review of it, because I nitpick everything I review. And I was, I was brutally honest with First Contact and picking it apart. You know, and just like I did with the first few minutes of Picard episode 1 in my recent video. That's just what I do. I like to nitpick all that stuff. But people are acting like this show is worse than the original series, than the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, or Enterprise when it comes to science. It isn't. Reeb says, you always butcher my name, but it doesn't bother me. Well, I'm sorry. I know I suck with some of these names, and so I apologize. Andy Jurger accidentally ate Auntie's jerky thinking he was eating ketchup chips. That's my problem. Joseph says, the nitpicking video was so funny since you went full out there and I understood the concept of the hate was entertaining. I appreciate that, Joseph. And I may do a part 2 because everybody seemed to enjoy it except for the people that were taking it too seriously. That's the funny thing to me is I knew it was going to happen, but I absolutely busted out laughing reading the comments with people getting really worked up about it. Peter says, in other words, the star is in the late evolutionary stages of its life. Okay. Now it's only a matter of time before it explodes, giving us an incredible sight in the night and daytime skies. Yeah, that'll be interesting when it happens, that's for sure. Nathan says, I'm used to Star Trek writing being either an 8 or 9 out of 10, but Picard's only a 5 out of 10. Discovery is much lower, but I'm holding, in my opinion, till the end of season 1. Well, here's the thing. Depends on when you're talking about writing, there's a few pieces to writing, and that's the problem, is that writing is not a singular thing. You have story writing, right? And then you have plot writing, and then you have dialogue writing, the screenplay. And I will agree with you that Picard's dialogue writing is horrible, right? It's right there with Discovery. In fact, you can tell it's written by a similar team of people, if not the same people. I don't know. I don't care as far as who the writers are. I just know that it's symptomatic of this modern writer's formula that we want to make everything modern and drop F-bombs and stuff because, ooh, isn't that edgy and fun? Because, you know, as Shaban said, it's dystopian if we don't use the F-bomb because he's a freaking idiot and doesn't know what dystopian means, right? So, which is pretty sad for a writer to not know what dystopian means. But anyway, so the dialogue writing is horrendous in Picard. The story and plot I don't really have a problem with, and that's where I get pissed off at people, is they're acting like, oh my god, this is the worst thing ever, but they're not citing the dialogue. If they were saying, oh, I can't, like there are some people that say, oh, I can't stand that she said dude, right? Yeah, I'm with you there, right? I don't like that she said dude. But then you hear people going off about the supernova, or going off about, the Romulan plot or whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How is this any different than what we've seen in Trek before? John says, I'll grant you that if Picard later reveals that the supernova was artificially triggered, it would be a lot more logical. It would, but if they don't, it would not. It would just be par for the course for Trek. That's my point. And the Duras have a history of working with Romulans and Toleran and Soren. Yes. Well, the Duras sisters could have been behind it. Of course, they're dead, but yes. What if species hate for 7-2... finds then the supernova created a hole where the West and Edmonton Mall is hidden. Wow, Alexander, that breaks my brain. I bet it was a slipstream experiment by the USS Anti-Checker. Shh. Darren says, I was one of those people who took you as a bit nitpicking, who took you to task a bit about nitpicking the dream sequence in Picard, but I like your videos. It was going good fun. Yeah, the point of that video was just to have fun with the fact that people are overly nitpicky, and I'll probably nitpick the whole episode because it was fun to do. But yeah, people take it way too serious sometimes. They really do. What is Romulan and Reman star called? Romulan's son? That's what they referred to it as in episode 1 of Picard. And wow, what's with these names? Schnepfenjäger? Schnepfenjäger? Schnepfenjäger?
Hello, world.
The person with the bottle of Jack Daniels for their avatar puts $5 in and says, don't sweat nitpicking these stories. They spend millions on making them. They should pay attention on what they're doing. Well, I agree. They should. And it is annoying that they miss simple little things that could be easily fixed. But, yeah, it is what it is. Trek is pretty much science fantasy versus science fiction. Yeah, the only really, I mean, if you look at shows like The Expanse tries to be hardcore sci-fi, and they do a much better job of it than Trek does. But Trek is much more sci-fi than, say, Star Wars, right? Captain Trek says, good morning, how you doing? Alexander says, when I was watching The Phantom Menace, I didn't look for logic. I was too busy to laugh at the amazing jokes of Jar Jar Binks. Well, that's actually, Alexander, you may not have meant it this way, but that is a very valid point, because it's just entertainment, and the same is true of Trek. It's meant to be entertainment. And even if the Trek, they use technobabble in Trek to try and make it feel more real. And they do a good job of it for the most part, but in Voyager, they went so over the top with it that it broke it for me. So Warp 10, every when and where and every point in history is okay with fans. Apparently, it's more okay with fans than a supernova that takes out an empire, even though a supernova could easily take out an empire. A doomcock isn't linked to a kind of disease, then I'll not name here. Stop, Alexander. No more comments about that particular disease. That's why you don't have a wrench on my channel. Wesley wants to eliminate the competition by melting Jar Jar. That must be it. Do you prefer Black Plague or syphilis? I don't prefer either. Reams, I'm just going to call you Reams because that first name I'm not going to even try again. Am I missing a joke? Why does Alexander and Wesley want Jar Jar stuff? Well, Alexander is Batwoman crazy, and Wesley is just being Wesley. I mean, he's Wesley Crusher, so, I think there is a hint of jealousy there because Jar Jar gets so much more attention than he does. Darth Vader says, rumor Kurtzman's getting the boot. You know what? People have been saying that for years. People have been saying that about Kathleen Kennedy for years. When he's gone, and I will be happy to see him go. But until it happens, I don't care about rumors. Sister says, I say this, it's Star Trek and science fiction. I'm totally okay with fictional science. And me too. I'm totally okay with it. And that's the point. Like, I know that I brought in Dr. Alex to kind of settle this whole supernova thing, and notice how quickly everybody changed the argument, right? And, which is fine, okay. So now the argument isn't about the supernova itself, but now we're going to argue about whether the star could have gone nova in the first place. Nobody argued about that before, and now they're going to, because they're going to say, wait a minute, because before the argument was how stupid it is that a supernova could wipe out an empire. Yeah, whatever. And of course, what they're, and I would bet you right now that granted, I know they won't, but if there was somebody who was an outspoken person producing videos about the supernova thing, and then they saw my video, they would say how, Anti-Trekker, he doesn't understand that we meant all along that we knew full well how ludicrous it would be that star would go nova without warning. Like, that's what but that's not what their argument was. Their argument was how stupid it was that a supernova could have taken out any more than just the Romulan system, because these people were ignorant as to the actual science and didn't bother to look it up. They just went off their own memory of supernovas and figured that they knew enough to calculate the destructive force and range of a supernova, which is a stupid thing to do. Darren says, Marvel has a database of summarized information for new writers, so when they get their assigned title they are not familiar with. I didn't know that. But it seems like that would be one hell of a database. I mean, like, think about it. With Peter Parker, just Peter Parker, right? You have to cover his relationship with Harry, his relationship with Green Goblin, his relationship with Dr. Octopus, his relationship with MJ, with Gwen Stacy, everybody who's died, of course, Uncle Ben, Aunt May. By the way, how old is Aunt May supposed to be anyway? I don't know. It seems like it's a mess. Jeff says, one thing that would improve the bridge set is if the lights under the view screen turn on and off like in the show. Well, congratulations, you are the winner of 5 internet points, because that was actually intentional by Mr. Miles. And the reason Mr. Miles animated all the bridge lights and stuff, which I think he did an incredible job with, But he left this alone for one very specific reason. He wanted proof that this was indeed just a photograph of the bridge as opposed to a video of the bridge. All right, Mr. Miles, now you can change it. I predicted that they would try to get around the facts by Dr. Alex when you talked about that video. Yeah, I know. I figured too. Alexander says, 200 AD does Judge Dredd. Really? For some reason, I thought Judge Dredd was a DC product, but I guess not. Or is 200 AD a subsidiary of DC? I don't know. Carlos says, there should be a super fan of the franchise to keep an eye on the canon of a series to make sure the writing keeps with the history of the show or comic. I agree, but you know what? For whatever reason, CBS ain't smart enough to figure that one out yet. And by the way, it wouldn't be that hard. You know what? You could probably pay someone, if you compare the cost of a typical script supervisor, you could probably pay some fan a quarter of that amount, and they would be more than happy. Heck, fans would do it for free. Just give them a focus group credit in the credits of the show, and they would do it for free. If I were to start watching Star Trek, where would I start? I have no idea since there's so many shows and movies. Well, it depends. Honestly, I would say if you want to watch it chronologically, you would start with Enterprise, and then the original, technically Enterprise, then Discovery, then the original series, and then Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and then Picard. As far as order of series. Now, films you watch in chronological order, but the first 6 films you basically watch while you're after you watch the original series, and the last 4 films you watch when you are after you watch The Next Generation. The 3 2009 films, meaning there's 3 films that started in 2009 that are a soft reboot of the original series canon. Those you could skip, honestly, or if you want to watch them, you should probably watch them. I don't even know when I would do it because it's kind of a mess, but you could possibly watch them after TOS or before Picard, either way. You need to rescue Aberjam now. Bird of Prey might kill him. I know. Our agents are working on it. I wanted to write 2000 AD. Well, you didn't. And Aberjam says, I regret nothing. Dan says, other upcoming Marvel films, Black Widow, the Internals, I think you mean the Eternals, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man sequel, Thor, Love and Thunder. Any you are not looking forward to? Any you are not or are looking forward to? Well, of the films, the one I'm looking forward to the most is Doctor Strange 2 and the Spider-Man sequel. Thor, Love and Thunder, I will reserve judgment until we know something about the story. The Eternals, don't really care that much about. Black Widow, it looks like, it'll be all right. I'm not excited about it, but I don't expect it to be bad either. What I'm really waiting for is freaking Fantastic Four. Star Wars turbo lasers or Federation phasers, which are more powerful? Powerful is debatable. I would argue that at close, and here's the thing, I'm going with what the Star Wars fanboys say about turbo lasers. Namely, that turbo lasers are not lasers at all, that they use lasers simply to energize plasma that is then ejected from an emitter. So if that is the case, if they are actually superheated plasma weapons, then I will say that turbo lasers are more powerful at short range. However, phasers have an incredibly, and this is demonstrably true from actual canon, phasers have a massively superior range. So there you go. Would love for X-Men New Kids. I would love for X-Men New Kids, and you see the new Xavier says, we will take good care of them, and then you see them having dinner with Magneto. It's better not to laugh about She-Male Army of Bird of Prey 5. It's a powerful army. I don't think that they are. So it's okay for Axanar to break fan film rules after they hurt all the others. Will other fans be allowed to make more than 2 15-minute films? Actually, that's all they're being allowed to make. So keep in mind, Axanar, Prelude to Axanar was what triggered the whole thing from CBS, right? And so then CBS handed down the rule of 2 15-minute films in a given franchise, right? And that is what they're going to do moving forward. And because CBS established the rule after Prelude to Axanar came out, then Axanar will be a 2-part, 15 minutes each project. So they are actually not violating the rules. The uniform Garth has on TOS very similar to the Discovery uniform, and was thinking Garth would be their war, maybe Lorca, but no. I didn't see Garth's uniforms really being similar to Discovery, but unfortunately, yeah, there's yeah. I don't think so. I don't think we're going to ever hear about Garth again, except for an Axanar. Right and wrong being subjective can be fine for Punisher, Wolverine, or Conan. It depends on the character. No, it is not. Right and wrong is right and wrong, regardless of the character. That's the whole point of subjective versus objective. If something is objectively right or wrong, then it does not matter what character you plop in there. Now, Wolverine, Conan, Punisher are more along the lines of anti-hero characters, which means they do wrong things, right? So they may be good, but that doesn't mean they always do what's right. So it doesn't change what right and wrong is. It simply changes the moral compass of those particular characters. As opposed to if you were to plop Colossus or Mr. Fantastic or something like, or Iron Man into those same situations, right? So, but morality of the character is different than something being objectively right or wrong. Darren says, see, that's why I wouldn't talk to Paul Jenkins on a stream. It wouldn't go well. I see no reason why he should go unmolested for his creative decisions. Well, I didn't know anything about him until that discussion. So, I had no reason to object about his past, which you would. Do you like that She-Hulk will be coming to a live-action Disney Plus show instead of Cinematic Universe? I'm okay with it. I think that she'll actually work better in a series format. Assuming they're going to do her like she was in the 80s, which is basically a PG version of Deadpool, then absolutely. Seeing Jews being eaten by lions and men fighting to death was considered good entertainment by the Romans. So there's that old chestnut. Yeah, but you're asking, you didn't ask if something was morally sound or not. You said good entertainment versus bad entertainment, right? So just because, it was good entertainment, and that's not a moral implication. That's simply saying it was successful for the Romans to watch Christians or Jews being eaten by lions, right? That was good entertainment to them, apparently. Now, I don't know how popular that really was, but let's suppose it was popular. Well, then it was good entertainment, right? However, that's not the same thing as saying it was morally sound, right? Death to Karoga, indeed, my friend.
To Karoga!
Is this live? Hello, YouTube Autoplay. Dump me here. Yes, this is live, Hector. Good to see you. Right and wrong are subjective. People who read Spider-Man have their opinion, which is very different from people who avoid such comic books. Well, I disagree with you on that, Sean. I don't think right and wrong are subjective. I don't think that murder is ever right. And I don't think that selflessness is ever wrong. So, no, I do not believe that right and wrong are subjective. We try to make it subjective in this more modern nihilistic worldview. We try to say that there is no real right or wrong. There's only what's right for you or wrong for you and all that. And you know what? That's why society is going down the freaking toilet right now, is because that is actually taking hold. That is actually something that people are embracing, is that right and wrong are these subjective things, that there is nothing that's absolute truly right or wrong about anything. And as such, our society is decaying very rapidly. And, it's kind of sad to see, actually. Alexander says, I'm an expert in Jar Jar Binks and people argue against me. Well, if the Jar Jar Binks question ever comes up, Alexander, I will definitely ask for your input on it. Sean says, the Romulan star could go supernova quickly if it had a little help from their enemies. Sure, I suppose that's possible. Betelgeuse is a Type B star. Thank you, I was not sure. So Betelgeuse is a very rare star then, according to Dr. Alex. Reem says, how fast does a supernova expand? Well, the damage expands at the speed of light because it is primarily radiation that is the primary damaging factor. Alexander says, it is important to not say Betelgeuse too much often. Well, that's true, yes. Sean says, it's not likely that there's a diamond at the center of the Earth. Diamond floats on molten iron. Well, there you go. So much for that theory. There is super volcano near Naples. Wouldn't know anything about that, but okay. Do you like that for 50 years Cardassians were on the were in Bajoran space and didn't even discover the wormhole? I don't know if I would say I like it. It's just a fact. And that's a weird way to phrase it, Dan. I wouldn't say I like or dislike it. The Cardassians, though, were not really into scientific research like humans are. And so the fact that they didn't happen to explore that area and look for a wormhole doesn't really matter. How far behind is he? Oh, way too far, man. Far for me, for sure. I'm like 20 plus minutes behind. Schleppenjäger says the Earth is flat, so the supervolcano will just add a second floor. Man. Darren says, I've been ignoring the supernova discussion. I think we all know why. Well, yes, see Yeager's comment from just before that. The crap with TNG and Voyager are old hat. Romulan supernova is new. Actually, no, the Romulan supernova isn't new, Sean. That was in 2009. So, on Picard tonight, he meets the sword guy. Wonder if he will be in Spock's son. Highly doubtful. Although, not completely outside of the realm of possibility, because, of course, we know that Spock got it on with the Romulan commander in the Enterprise incident. And so it is entirely possible that they had a kid, and, you know, given Vulcan/Romulan lifespans, wouldn't necessarily be old looking. So I'm actually down for that. I think everyone complains about Warp 10 and Voyager. Well, that's true. Everybody does, but not to the extent that people are complaining about the supernova thing. The people can't be nitpicking against a series with 7 of 9 in it. Sure you can. If you don't mind, it's pronounced supernova, typical Trekker. Sorry, my friend. Yes, supernova. We learned that from Bird of Prey 5. It's either Section 31 or the Founders. I don't see the Tal Shiar doing a job like the Nova unless they were about to be purged, and then it would be likely to start over with them in power. Yeah, Tal Shiar I would be doubtful of, unless it was the Vosh group, the Nak Vosh, is that how you say it? I could see them doing something like that if they got wind that Romulus was about to embrace synthetic life. TNG Who Watches Watchers is Season 3 as Proto-Vulcan species. Thank you, Dan. I apologize. So Season 3 of TNG Who Watches the Watchers, and it's a Proto-Vulcan species. Yes, which is bull crap. It's bull crap. It is complete and 100% bull crap. And it's hard for me to say crap instead of the other word in that case. Because it is so stupid to... I mean, it's one thing that you have these humanoid species all over the place. And granted, you have arguments as to why that is if you look at certain episodes, the Preservers, etc. But to suggest that these people evolved on their own to be exactly like Vulcans, not only in physical appearance, but in attitude as a result of their evolutionary path, is to say you know nothing about evolution. Because it's one thing for them to have a similar appearance, right? Although they actually look like Romulans, not Vulcans. But it's one thing to say that they have a similar appearance. It's quite another thing to say that they are rational people because their evolutionary path so closely mirrors Vulcan. That would be like, and I am not exaggerating here, if we found a humanoid species on another planet and we talked about how incredible their evolution parallels the Scots, and that's why they wear kilts. It makes no effing sense if you know anything about evolutionary theory, even as a layperson. You should rewatch your First Contact review. How, that's nitpicking. Granted, you still have gave it a decent score. Well, yeah, that's the point. I was honest about it. And the thing is, and this is what a lot of people miss, Marlena, is that while it's true that I nitpick every little thing in First Contact along the way, I also gave it more positive points than negative. And so for every nitpick, there's at least one positive thing that I say as well. So, yeah. Reem says, Voyager was perfect, especially after season 4. Okay, you must fall in the Alexander camp of how to rate shows then. Lancer says, did they mention what happened to the Remans in Picard? Did the Romulans just poison them all to death with garlic pizza before they tried to flee? No, the Remans have not been mentioned at all in Picard, and I suspect they won't be because they freaking look like vampires, but, they should. Because, here's the funny thing is, Picard is all about, oh, their lives. Romulan lives. No, damn it, lives. Every life matters. What about the Remans? Screw them. Really, what about the Remans? Why does Picard only care about the Romulans? Good question. Let's see. Vaco says, Andrew knows not, Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard are massively less accurate than TNG. Voyager is somewhere in the middle. If you really believe that, you are smoking some of that snake leaf. You're smoking some serious space weed. That's what it is. You're smoking space weed. I'm sorry. Because, first of all, there hasn't even been enough science in Star Trek Picard to make that kind of an assessment. There has not been nearly enough science mentioned in Picard to even come close to making that kind of an assessment. All right? The only thing people are going on is this stupid supernova business, which, by the way, was already established canon before Picard. So, no, that's a load of crap. Now, people will say, well, what about the Martian atmosphere? Well, they did say that there were gases in the atmosphere that were ignited by the attack and that they're still burning. Oh my God, that's so unrealistic. Why is that unrealistic? First of all, we know that Mars has turned into a huge planetary industrial production facility and has been for decades and decades. And in fact, that's probably why they build all their ships on Mars, is so that it doesn't pollute the Earth, right? So the Martian atmosphere is just nothing but pollutants created by these things and these industrial plants building starships. So we don't know what the gases are that are created from the production of starships. Why is it so unrealistic to think that they might burn if attacked? And if there's enough of it because remember, Utopia Planitia was a well-established shipyard 30 years prior, right? So it's been going on for a long time. All of Starfleet ships apparently are built there. So why is it so unrealistic to think that the freaking planetary atmosphere is saturated with this stuff and it wouldn't burn out overnight? However, even if you wanted me to say, okay, fine, that's stupid too. So you got a supernova and a planetary explosion. All right, what else? Because you know what? On Star Trek The Next Generation, we start digging, we're going to find at least a couple of hundred things. So unless you can come up with a couple of hundred things, you're out of luck. And there have only been 3 episodes of Picard. You're not going to find that many things. Now, some people are going to say the positronic brain, right? But the positronic brain has been around since season 1 of TNG. And by the way, there have been plenty of stupid things said about Data's brain all along, like the existence of an emotion chip, right? That's just stupid. How about just the idea of going to the holodeck and say, hey, make an opponent capable of defeating Data, and the holodeck instantly creates a sentient life form. All right, so there's like all sorts of stupid things that have happened throughout Trek. Now, people want to say that cloning a computer, basically what amounts to a computer chip, is this crazy thing. People do it all the time, right? Cloning doesn't necessarily mean a biological process. Yes, they throw some technobabble in front of the cloning process, but it doesn't necessarily mean biological cloning. Cloning simply means to make a copy of. That's what the word literally means. Captain, however you say your last name, puts €5 in. Thank you so much. Picard is just a mediocre show. It doesn't feel like good Trek due to the pulpy dialogue and awful set design. How would you rank Season 1 of Enterprise, Voyager, Discovery, etc.? Well, first of all, I'll slightly disagree with you as far as the Picard thing. I think the pulpy dialogue, I will agree with you 100%. I don't dislike the set design. I don't understand why people are so pissed off about the set design, because it takes place in the civilian world for the most part, except for his visit to Starfleet Command, which I didn't have a problem with, and they now got on Rios' ship, which is, I don't particularly care for his ship, but I also wasn't offended by it. Anyway, as far as Season 1 of the various shows, Discovery is at the very bottom of the list. I think that is almost a universal thing. I think most people would agree. Discovery is absolute crap. And Season 1 of Discovery is the worst first season of any Trek show. It's disjointed. It's really, the whole focus on Michael Burnham was a mistake. It was just a bad show from beginning to end. And what few things that it had going for it, they pretty much ruined by the end of it. The only thing that was consistently good about Season 1 of Discovery, and actually better than any show that came before it, were the visual effects. However, every other aspect, it was horrible. Okay, so above Discovery, so second to last place, I'm going to put Star Trek The Next Generation. Season 1 of Star Trek The Next Generation was absolute garbage, all right? There were a couple of decent episodes in there, but for the most part, it was preachy, it was annoying, the acting was stiff, and I'm sorry, you want to complain about set design in Star Trek The Next Generation was absolute crap, especially if you compare it to the original series. When they beamed down to a planet, it looked like they just beamed down to the original series sets, and this is like 30 years later, right? We went from the 60s to the 80s, and yet we haven't improved sets at all? Really? So TNG, very, very bad. All right, so now we run into some problems. It gets a little harder to determine. Because the shows that we have left, of course, we have the original series, which I'm going to go ahead and just say, I think the original series had a very strong first season. In fact, many people consider the first season the best season of the original series. And so I would actually probably put the original series on top of the heap. So then you have Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Enterprise, and Picard. So Picard, I'm throwing out that one because we haven't seen the first season yet. We've only seen the first 3 episodes. So Picard, I'm not going to even rate. So that leaves us with Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise. So Deep Space Nine of those 3, I think, is definitely the best first season. So I'll put that in second place behind the original series. And then I'm going to put Enterprise as number 3, and then Voyager. And the reason that I put Enterprise above Voyager is that while Enterprise's first season was its weakest of the series, in my opinion, the episodes were kind of slow and not particularly exciting. Voyager screwed the pooch hardcore in season 1, where they had the whole premise of this whole Maquis Federation hybrid crew where everybody's supposed to hate each other's guts, and within a few short episodes they were all singing Kumbaya and holding hands. And about the harshest thing anybody says about anybody else is when Torres refers to Tom Paris as Starfleet, and they end up getting freaking married. So there you go. Death by Rabies throws $5 in, says, got to go for now. Thank you for the video. Always a pleasure. We'll check on your next upload. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Death by Rabies. I truly appreciate it, and I will try to avoid death by rabies. Yeah. All right, so I got to try to get caught up so I can wrap things up here, but I'm like, wow, I'm a half an hour behind now. If there's a good story, you don't notice the incorrect science, but the stories aren't that good anymore, and that's the problem. I think the stories are fine. I think it's the dialogue that's bad. Peter says, compared to Wandering Earth and Trigger, Star Trek is scientifically perfect. I don't know the Wandering Earth, so I don't know. Photo sonar. Sonar stands for sound navigation and ranging. They're mutually exclusive ones for the other. Phondar would have been much more acceptable acronym term. I agree, Darren. But you know, the problem is the people that wrote Star Trek, the motion picture, didn't know that. They didn't hire a submariner to actually, you know, confirm that. The Supernova Dumassery is wrong. You realize how many centuries it would be before the sun actually explodes, let alone warning signs long before it goes boom. Yes, Mr. Lundell, that's the goalpost movement I was talking about. Joseph says, you can nitpick to hell and back, even Interstellar or Gravity, the two most scientifically accurate movies made, so I do not get the unnecessary hate for Trek. I don't either. I really don't. Peter says, I know, Anti-Trekker. I know you. Sorry. Anti-Trekker, all the Romulans would be dead long before the sun exploded. Yes, continue to move that goalpost, Mr. Lundell. But here's the thing. That's not what people were arguing about. People were arguing about the destructive force of a supernova not being able to affect anything outside of the Romulan home system. Not whether or not they would have advance warning. Now, as far as advance warning, there are plenty of explanations. One, it is a possible natural occurring event that we have not previously encountered. Two, it was an artificial event caused by a trilithium detonation, something that already in canon we know will instantaneously cause a sun to go nova. And number three, about 8 million other possible reasons that a group could do it, ranging from proto-matter to something we've never heard of. Juan says, I don't mind the planet of Vulcanoids in Who Watches the Watchers because the original series they encountered alien humans all the time, except that in the original series they actually explain that with the advent of the preservers. And so, and here's the thing. I don't mind the fact that you have a planet of Vulcanoids in Who Watches the Watchers. What I have a problem with is them trying to imply that evolutionary theory explains the behavior of said Vulcanoids and the fact that they were atheists, that somehow that is an evolutionary trait. Nobody tosses a dwarf star. Not true. Thor does. Stargate Atlantis. Well, actually, no. He tosses something, a ring around a dwarf star. Stargate Atlantis. They cloak the entire city so the Wraith doesn't discover them. Rodney is speaking very quietly, and the people like, why are you speaking quietly? They can't hear us. Well, give them credit then. Revan says, why does the commander wear sunglasses? Shouldn't Romulans have inner eyelids to protect them? Yes. Your point? Most of us say you hate first contact just to troll. I know that, Thomas. Don't I know that. But there are some people that genuinely think that I hate first contact. Why? Because they don't understand the context of it. 51 Peg is a yellow dwarf star, like our own star. I don't know what 51 Peg is, Peter, but I'm glad you know that. Watch that blood pressure. Sci-fi shows are just for entertainment, but some of us are unable to see it as that. That is the problem, JPEZ. That is truly the problem. Dan says, apparently Gene Roddenberry had each episode of Star Trek fact-checked by NASA.
Bullshit.
I am so tired of hearing stories like that. Sorry, Dan. I know I don't cuss often, but I'm so tired of hearing stories about the great Gene Roddenberry and how he did stuff like that, because he didn't. If he did, Trek would have been scientifically accurate. but it wasn't. And besides that, you do realize, like, and I don't know if you're talking about the original series or Next Gen. If you're talking about the original series, Gene Roddenberry didn't have creative control over the original series, let alone enough to get NASA to come in. As for the Next Generation, he only had limited creative control during the first season and a half. And guess what? They were not exactly full of scientifically accurate statements in the first season and a half of Star Trek. They just made shit up just like they do now. And Alexander says, the entire universe, without exception, want MCU made naked right now. Okay. Peter says, only stars that are red giants or supergiants will go supernova. Oh, only stars that are red giants or supergiants will go supernova. Peter, you should watch the video that I put out this morning because that is actually factually incorrect. And not me saying it. Actual experts saying it. How do you know the radiation from a supernova only goes the speed of light and not faster? We don't have any way to test this. Well, radiation is light. So, pretty safe bet that light is radiation. Radiation is light. It's just that it's light at frequencies that we may or may not be able to see, right? The visible light spectrum is a form of radiation that we can see. However, X-rays and gamma rays and stuff like that are forms of radiation that we can't see, right? Now, all light moves at, wait for this, the speed of light. Hence the name, the speed of light. And yes, we have tested the speed of light. Romulans and humans have outposts on both sides of the neutral zone. It's mentioned in TNG. That's not what? Okay, what does that have to do with any of this? I mean, genuinely, what does that have to do with any of this? The fact that they have outposts, did anybody ever say they didn't have outposts? Krogan spies are spreading fake news saying Martok was a changeling when he was quoted as saying death to Krogan. Yeah, I know, it's all fake, but you know. My idea is the supernova was caused by the Borg trying to use the star for a new transwarp hub that got destroyed by Janeway. That would be cool, except that then why did it wait so long to happen? I'm sad that we didn't get a pilot about the political situation in the Romulan Empire instead of a supernova. Alexander, the supernova happened in Star Trek 2009. Just putting that out there. If you're going to do a Star Trek series that takes place after Star Trek The Next Generation, it was going to be a necessity to deal with the supernova. The hole where the West Edmonton Mall is hidden. Yes, cannabis is legal in Canada, and as this poster demonstrates. Reem says, we do not have any test to prove or disprove that the max speed of the speed of light, well, just put the speed of light, it could very well be faster. Okay. You know what? I understand you may believe that, but, you know, I'm pretty sure that there have been a lot of tests done as far as testing the speed of light, and so far they've been, they've been pretty consistent. Most dialogue in modern shows are clunky and unnatural. I feel like some of these writers have never had dialogue or interaction with anyone not their own sphere of understanding. I agree, but in Trek, the problem is that Trek has a very distinctive style of dialogue, and they kind of just said, screw it, let's make them talk like it's CSI Space. That's my problem, is that they really, really just made it bad. People should be patient and wait for 7 of 9. With 7 of 9, everything will be perfect. All right. Romulan star is called Ilson. All right. Is that in canon, or is that just from Memory Alpha? I love nitpicking. Love the nitpicking. Couldn't stop laughing. Glad you enjoyed it. Hank says a schnep is a bird or an annoying woman. Okay. In SG-1, where there's a big battle above the planet, how much could you really see if you just look up in the sky? Well, none of it unless the battle was taking place at a relatively low elevation. How long before the theory comes up saying the Romulan star blew up by Q? Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's probably coming. I'll stop speaking about the disease because I want a wrench. Yeah, well, it's going to take more than just you saying that. I was talking to a dude on you said dude on Facebook, and I'd done a calculation. I believe that we're past the Enterprise F. I would say in Picard we are on the Enterprise E, H, based on Picard being an Odyssey class 15 years ago. But here's the thing. First of all, no, because the Enterprise B lasted for quite a while. The Enterprise C went without replacement for over 20 years. So who's to say how long it would, the E was a cutting edge starship after the Next Generation films. At the end of the Next Generation films, the E was still considered a cutting edge starship and was the Enterprise E. So even if the E was destroyed in Nemesis rather than just being damaged and under repair, then they could wait 20 plus years for the Enterprise F and it would not be a problem. In Star Wars The Force Awakens, when Starkiller Base fires its laser, how do people on the other planet know to turn around and look up and see it through the sky? Bad writing. And is a supernova some type of Chevy? No, there's no such thing as a Chevy supernova. There's only a Chevy crappy nova. In the comics, there was at least 10 years of warning, but the Romulans covered it up until the Federation detected it themselves about 5 years before. Well, there you go. That answers your warning phase, people. I want to bang MCU at May 2. All right. A supernova can't destroy the whole Romulan Empire was one argument, which your video does answer. However, speaking for myself, that was never the only problem. Funny you say that, John DeMarco, because that's the only problem anybody mentioned until today, but that's fine. 2008, that's the funny thing, and I'm not blaming you, John. I'm sure, you're a good guy. I'm sure you're being honest about it, but here's the problem. That's the only argument about the supernova people have been saying for weeks, and now all of a sudden, everybody wants to come up with something new because that argument no longer holds any water, right? Okay, fine. You want to argue about the possibility of a supernova? Well, as Bird said, they actually did say that there was at least 10 years warning. Now, you might say that's not enough time. Again, do we know absolutely everything about stellar physics? The answer is no. Will we ever know everything about stellar physics? Probably not. Could it have been triggered by an alien entity? Yes. We don't know the answer to that either. Will that be something that they uncover in this season or even in future seasons of Picard or other Star Trek shows? Possibly. And yet everybody wants to get their panties in a wad because it's not all spoon-fed to them in episode 1 of Picard. And I really don't get that. Why the hell do you want everything spoon-fed to you in a serialized show? That would ruin the show. You do realize that, right? I mean, people that like the Mandalorian, would you have liked the Mandalorian if they told you everything that was gonna happen in episode 1? Probably not. 2000 AD for Judge Dredd. Yeah, we established that like an hour ago. If you want to get the best of Star Trek, watch the episodes of 7 of 9. I disagree. There's a website that lists Trek in chronological order. I'm sure there is. Oh, you're talking about for the person that was asking about that. I find some from the fandom menace to be hypocrites. Well, I agree, but there's some people in almost every group that are hypocrites. But that's not the problem here. I'm not trying to accuse anybody of anything. Except that, can we please let the supernova argument die? Because it's pointless, as I demonstrated. Whenever people ask me where they should start watching Star Trek, I always tell them to go by air date, so exactly the way the fandom saw them. I can understand that, starting with the original series. That's, I think the original series is the best, though, so if you start with the best, then everything else is going to be a disappointment. Didn't Spock contain the supernova in the 2009 film? Yes and no, Wayward. And actually, that's an interesting point. That's something that I wish... That's a better discussion than this crap about the supernova being an impossibility. But all we know is that he was too late to save Romulus. And that he dropped red matter in the supernova and it saved the Federation. Now, that could actually be part of the reason that there's increased tensions between the Romulans and the rest of the galaxy. Because if, let's say that he dropped the red matter in the neutral zone and it saved the Federation, but the Nova continued to expand in the other direction, wiping out the Romulan Empire, you know, I could see some people being pissed off about that. Unfortunately, that was never dealt with, and I don't know why. I would like to see them deal with that. You should always start watching Star Trek with Discovery. Everything else will be better. That's actually not a bad point. But of course, then again, people might kill themselves after watching Discovery. Boundless Comics is amazing, but you would not like it. Well, then I guess it's not that amazing. For Trek 50th, I watched them in order, easy until the shows start to overlap. True. Darren says, personally, I think the Thor movie, people missed the ball, will bring back Jane Foster. It would have been much more entertaining to bring back Kat Dennings' character, Darcy, instead. Well, except that Darcy was not a love interest to Thor. And, you know, I understand. I don't want them to bring back Jane Foster. I think that it's a mistake, and I think that it will hurt their box office, to be honest with you. Because I think the reason people liked Ragnarok was they shed themselves of that baggage. I never got the whole who's got the more powerful weapon thingy. I always thought it should argue that they shouldn't argue power, but effective range and destructive force. I agree, Nathan. And that's the reason that you have to argue about power is that if you're a Star Wars fanboy, that's all you've got. Everyone forgets about poor old Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. Is this MCU destined to fail? I think it is, which is sad, but I think it is. I don't think that it's going to be a particularly popular film. And why don't I see that? That's weird. So I got a new super chat, but now it's not popping up on the screen. There it is. Schlepp says, but dude, I hate you all. Outside of Star Trek Discovery, Voyager is the worst of the worst Trek in all Trek. They even disregarded canon whenever it interferes with their crappy writing. Well, Voyager, don't get me wrong, every show has their good and bad. Voyager is definitely not my favorite show, so I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah. And so... I like anti-heroes. This is more my type. Judge Dredd is really my favorite character, but if I read hero comics, I want the Paladin style, like the Lone Ranger or the Spirit. Well, you know, you can like anti-heroes all day long. That doesn't change the fact that right and wrong is right and wrong. JD says, hey man, late for the live stream. Mind filling me in on today's discussion? P.S. Really digging the new videos. Thank you. Basically arguing about the supernova thing a little bit more. People arguing. Of course, I know you left this comment like a freaking half hour ago, so you know what we're talking about. Wow, it's 40 minutes ago now. Jeez. Captain Trek. So, guys, I am going to cut it off in a minute here. So, if I don't get to your comment, I apologize, but I can't keep going all day. I got things to do, like get ready for the next video. Captain Trek says, all hail Kuroga, long live Kuroga. Wrong answer. Most laser weapons in Star Wars are lasers. However, they're hard light lasers. The photons are condensed into bolts, making it so that there's more high energy photons per square inch. Wow, that makes no sense whatsoever, but that's okay. And Candace puts $5 in. Thank you, Candace. Says, answering the entire science is like watch Armageddon. No science, dumb fiction. I actually enjoy Armageddon for what it is. It's a fun popcorn movie. But yeah, I agree. So Lancer, everybody now, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but everybody that I've ever talked to talking about Star Wars, it's a hardcore Star Wars fanboy, argues that they're plasma weapons. Now, you want to say they're hard light lasers. Show me in canon where it says that, and I will change my mind. And the only reason, by the way, that I let people get away with the plasma argument is because that's the only thing that gives the Imperials even the slightest chance against even the simplest Federation starship. If someone points a gun at you and threatens to shoot, but you kill him first, is that right or wrong? If you're trying to get into situational ethics, that's a different kind of thing. But if you want to talk about, for example, killing is not a moral or immoral act, because murder is immoral. Killing in self-defense, not. It's not about the killing, it's the intent behind the killing that makes a killing moral or immoral, because murder is a specific type of action as opposed to defense. So, for example, if a soldier kills an enemy soldier on the battlefield, he is not committing murder. Murder is defined as killing with malice. In society, there's right, wrong, and neutral things. I don't like when people try to make neutral things wrong with the goal to impose their ideology. No idea what you're talking about, and I'm sure you're probably saying something that I would consider wrong that you think is neutral. So, yeah, whatever. Hard light is a real thing now, made in 2013. It's very cool. Photons stick together like molecules even outside the medium they're created, like physics rocks. Lancer, Star Wars was made in 1977, not 2013. So just because they may have made some kind of wonderful revolutionary breakthrough in light mechanics in 2013 doesn't mean you can retcon what Star Wars is. Right and wrong are not objective unless there's a perfect creator whose moral code would indeed be objective. That's an interesting way to put it, Aberjam. However, you do have to submit to a higher authority in order to advocate to a right or wrong, which is why society has been working, particularly the Hollywood left, has been working so hard to make all morality relative and to make there's no such thing as an absolute right and wrong, because if you have an absolute right and wrong, then you have to acknowledge the existence of the divine, and they don't want to do that because they have an agenda to follow. So yeah, have fun with that. However, that is not a point I'm willing to concede. I'm not going to say there is no divine being, and so, sorry, I do believe that things are right and things are wrong. And then another $2 says, Aldo Nova. Aldo Nova. Now you're going to make me do, I'm already this far behind. You're going to make me do a web search because I don't know what Aldo Nova is. Okay, so Aldo Nova, Canadian guitarist. Never heard of him, but okay. I assume that's who you're talking about. And not sure why, though. And Captain Foley's in the house as I'm trying to wrap things up. Hey, Captain Foley. Captain Trek says it's 12:09 now. Yeah, oh, jeez. In Star Trek Online, the Oconians caused supernova. Yeah, but that's not canon. However, interesting idea. Off to Bible study. Have a great rest of the stream. Oh, thanks for dropping that little nugget and then taking off, Aberjam, you jerk. Maybe the wormhole wasn't discovered, but opened by the prophet so Cisco could find the Celestial Temple and join them. That's also a possibility. Juan says, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I always felt that the Cardassians acted like original series Klingons. It's fun to imagine them looking like old-style Klingons. They kind of do. I'm disappointed by the way they changed Klingons, by the way. Warp 10 of Voyager was removed from canon, Ed Trigger, because it's so bad. I think you're forgetting that once it's out of canon, it's out of the fire. Sorry, I didn't get a memo saying Warp 10 in Voyager was removed from canon. Show me where it says that that threshold didn't happen. Everyone complains against Jar Jar because they're jealous. They don't have the capacity to create such an amazing character like him. Wow. The man, you're going to make me try to pronounce this. Fledgerin, however you say that field's Italian, whatever, Napoleon, is a large tufa volcano. Okay. I'm not sure why you're talking about that, Peter, but okay. What expands faster, a supernova or your waistline on Thanksgiving? Supernova. Peter says, and it's racist. I'm not sure what specifically you're talking about. Oh, maybe the Proto-Vulcan thing. You have been generous with First Contact. There was no 7 of 9 in it. Wow. Dan says, there's a planet in TOS that looks just like Earth, but the country's upside down. Yeah. Speaking of the Mintakans, wasn't there a TOS episode where the exact duplicates of Earth, bread and circuses, Hodgkin's laws of parallel planetary development or some crap? Yes. Which is an interesting idea, and that was just an excuse for the writing, which I understand, and the funny thing is that back then we didn't take it so damn seriously to where we were worried about the fact that we knew that was an impossibility, right? But at the same time, they did it for storytelling purposes, and we all understood that. Cinnabon puts $4.99 into the chat, says, have a good day. Thank you, Cinnabon, my epic friend who is guest starring on Picard tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on how you look at it. What is the guy said about Voyager being perfect after the 4th season, if a fact? What? Okay. Reed says, they're going to go watch Who Watches Watchers just because of how good it sounds. Well, you have fun with that. I hate that episode. Supernova Business, and there's Cinnabon's $4.99. Thank you again. Supernova Business isn't so much lucrative. Okay. Mars has an atmosphere just thinner and different than Earth's. Never said they didn't, but I also am saying that if the Utopia Planitia shipyards has been operating on the Martian surface for at minimum 30 years, and 30 years ago it was considered well established, so probably more like 50 to 100 years it's been in operation, that the Martian atmosphere is full of all sorts of wonderful gases that apparently under the right circumstances can be ignited. Darther says, Twitter is going on about the Dr. Agnes is a transgender, was born a man, don't care. Brain, what is brain? Good question. Valor says, SW is, as far as I'm concerned, 100% fantasy, while Star Trek is 100% sci-fi before TNG, which slowly encroached fantasy territory. Voyager was borderline, then came Discovery, which is pure fantasy. I would say this. TOS was an attempt at sci-fi. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was an attempt. But Next Generation, they thought they were making sci-fi. By Voyager, they just gave up. Just listen to the technobabble. Well, I was gone for a bit. What did I miss? Too much. People are buying clones of PCs before. Okay. Dang, I missed most of the stream because I was watching Bird of Prey rant. Death to Karoga. Indeed.
Death to Karoga!
Sister says, it's odd that you don't like Season 1 of TNG since most of the stories were made for Star Trek The Next Phase, but I agree Season 1 was pretty bad. Well, here's the biggest problem, and this is the thing about Star Trek, is that for the most part, Star Trek is supposed to be character-driven, and the characters in TNG were not interesting. They're all the same character. They're almost completely interchangeable. Even Worf in Season 1 didn't have any edge to him. And Schlepfenjaeger puts in another 99 cents just to put a turd into the chat. Thank you so much, Schlepfenjaeger. Still ranting, I see. Trying not to. Antrigger's going Ketwalski. I am nothing like Ketwalski. Utopia Shipyards was mentioned in TNG Parallels and Voyager Relativity. Well, we knew Utopia Planitia was in existence at least at the beginning of TNG, because wasn't the Enterprise D built there, according to the plaque? And Captain Foley's in the chat, so maybe he could answer. But I'm pretty sure that Utopia Planitia was there then, as the only thing we know is that the Constitution Enterprise was built at San Francisco. Say the TOS episode Bread and Circuses is stupid. Say it, say it! I'm not going to say it's stupid. It's actually an interesting episode, but I would say that the whole thing with the Hodgkin's law of parallel planetary development is stupid. Captain says, but thanks, Andrew. I mostly agree with your ranking. Well, good. That means you're mostly right. Taurus does not refer to Paris as Starfleet in no episode of Voyager. Prove me wrong. I could prove you wrong, but I don't feel like looking it up right now. Do they actually say the phrases, I relieve you, sir, and I stand relieved in real military vessels? I believe they do, but I've never served on a military vessel, the person to ask there would be Darren Wagner. Utopia Planitia is mentioned in other TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager, but those two examples where you see it. You also see that the Enterprise D is in construction on TNG in the holodeck. That's true. And Captain Foley confirms, yes, it was built there. Thank you, Captain Foley. Wouldn't the destruction of a sun alter the gravitational forces in a large area like in Generations? Just asking. Well, yes, but very minutely, not to a point where you would notice. Just how close would one need to be? Astronomers estimate we have a comfort zone about 50 light years. That's 27 times the size of our solar system. Any supernova closer than that, and well, you get the idea. Yes, Peter, watch my video. That is actually cited in the video. And by the way, there are about 1,500 stars within 50 light years of Earth. So, yeah, we kind of covered that. At nauseum at this point. Darren says, it's well documented the Roddenberry consulted friends at NASA and the RAND Corporation, NASA contractor, for ideas for Star Trek scripts. Yeah, but there's a difference between that and what Dan 23 said. Dan 23, and this is the problem. People take these facts and exaggerate them out into a fiction. The fact, like you said, Roddenberry consulted friends at NASA and the RAND Corporation for ideas for Star Trek scripts. Fiction. Roddenberry sent every script to NASA to be confirmed to be scientifically accurate. That's what Dan said. What Enterprise do you think would be made after the Enterprise Z? The Enterprise AA, actually. That is the standard protocol. Well, that's news to me. I'm talking about Giants and Nova. Well, that's the thing. It's news to me, too. That's why I consulted an actual expert. Here's a parallel. You nitpick First Contact, but you don't like it. No, I do like it. Likewise, someone nitpicks Picard, that doesn't necessarily mean they are doing it out of spite. That's true, John. Never said that. And I don't have a problem. That's the point of my nitpicking video on Picard. I don't care. If somebody wants to nitpick the crap out of Picard, I'm perfectly okay with that. I don't mind. However, what gets my goat, so to speak, is that people talking basically, and you see this in video after video after video on YouTube. I mean, heck, just start looking and you'll find them. I don't have to name people to you. And just talking about how Picard is the worst show ever. It's so bad. I mean, after all, can you possibly believe that a supernova would destroy an empire? At the most, it would destroy one system. You know, that's the kind of thing you're seeing, is people saying it's a bad show, and here's a reason why it's a bad show, and citing the supernova thing. That is dumb. Anyway, the gravitational waves that happen after a supernova is what you should be talking about, that move slower than light. Gravitational waves aren't even proven to exist as far as I know. However, the deadly part of a supernova has nothing to do with gravity. It has to do with radiation. Let's see. Darth Red says, I hear that anti-trigger videos are in fact checked by Beagle Bites. Juan says, it would be funny to see reactions of people to their perfect Captain Picard talking down to a Bajoran religious leader person. Oh, man. Yeah. And Trekyard says, could it be that Mars is still burning due to the sense introducing something in the atmosphere that's impossible or hard to extinguish? Well, actually, Captain Foley, the FNN reporter said that there was the gas. I can't remember what she said, what it was called, but like some kind of gases on Mars was ignited because of the attack and was still burning. Not that the sense added that gas to the atmosphere. And my guess is that it's just an industrial byproduct of Utopia Planitia operating there for some 50 plus years. No, radiation is not light. For example, alpha radiation is not light. Neither is beta. Okay. I know that the supernova was in 2009. Sad that they did that in 2009. Well, we got to deal with it. Wasn't there supposed to be something about the Borg technology on the Romulan ship in the 2009 movie, but it was cut? It was actually in the Countdown comic book that preceded the 2009 movie that they talked about the Borg technology on the ship. But yes, the Narada was supposedly a mining ship enhanced by Borg technology. But the problem is, since that comic book is no longer canon, then you can make up your own mind on it. I just got to the point where I said bump to all but a few Western TV shows. I'm just started to watch a lot of anime. I can kind of understand that. What would happen if a supernova hit a flat Earth? Asking for a friend. I don't know. No idea. What about a flat star going nova? No clue. Still have to disagree. They had to include this. That they had to include the supernova. They retconned enough already. They could retcon the supernova. I'd have been fine with it anyway. I understand that, Zabe, and I think most fans would be fine if they had retconned it. But I think that the problem is that they, you have to take into account it's not just a matter of storytelling. It's a matter of internal politics at Paramount, at CBS, and now at Viacom. And so you can't just say that never happened, because that becomes an insult to the people that worked on Star Trek 2009, one of whom, of course, was Alex Kurtzman, who is the showrunner. And so, yeah, you couldn't just say it didn't happen without insulting Alex Kurtzman. And people in Hollywood and people in entertainment industry, period, have very inflated and very sensitive egos. And I'm sorry, they're a bunch of babies. And unfortunately, so you can't hurt their feelings, because they'll get triggered and they'll need their stress card. And then Star Trek, well, you're mean, and then lawsuits happen. You know whom this friend is, Enter, a resident flat earther? Well, I'm sure that he probably knows already. The USS Kelvin launched all those reactors or warp cores. How come it did not wipe out the entire Romulan ship? I don't know. I see the reason that they took so long to get at the NCC 1701D is some bureaucrat wanting to end the line with the sea to preserve the memory of the ship and crew and what they did. Or they just waited 20 years until a new ship was designed. Because think about it, in the TNG era, you didn't see Ambassador-class ships roaming around, but you sure did see a lot of Excelsiors and Miranda-class ships and Oberth-class ships. So the Galaxy-class seems to have been the first new ship design since the Ambassador. And the Ambassador seems to have been a failed experiment. And so based on all that, that would be why they waited. Because why would you call the D an Excelsior-class ship? Alexander still cares about the birds in The Force Awakens because he's crazy. 10 years of warning, and the Star Empire didn't evacuate the planet with a large and imposing fleet. You know, that's the funny thing. Another thing that I love people talking about. Their large and imposing fleet. Now, a Galaxy-class starship is capable of carrying some 10,000 people in an emergency, if I remember correctly. So, now the Romulan warbirds, let's say that the Romulan warbirds, even though there's nothing to support this, but let's say the Romulan warbirds have twice that capacity. So a Romulan warbird can handle 20,000 people in a single trip. All right. So now, let's say that, I mean, what is there, like, I don't know, 5 billion people on the Earth right now? I don't know if that's an accurate number, but we'll just say that, the population of Romulus is 5 billion people. So let's see, 500, 5,000, 5 million, 5 billion people divided by 20,000 per trip means that you'd have to make a total of 250,000 trips, assuming that you filled the warbird to capacity. Now, we have 250,000 trips. Now, how many warbirds do they actually have? 50? 100? Do we have any clue? Oh, yeah, no, we don't. We know that they lost a significant amount of them in the war. But how many warbirds do they actually have? 250,000 round trips. That's assuming, by the way, only one planet in the Romulan Empire. Now, how many planets do we have? Well, some people want to say hundreds. Other people say dozens. Let's say 25. So now you have 6,250,000 round trips. Now, how's that going to work? Good luck. Yeah, the logistics of their large and imposing fleet isn't so large and imposing. You know, it's like people think like the United States Navy has a large and imposing Navy. It's less than 1,000 ships. And you know what? If every single naval ship wanted to evacuate all 250 million people from the United States, it would take a pretty long time. Admiral Saval's in the house says, "Yo, Mike, how you doing?" Peter says, "And loving memory of and loving the Mystery Picard, Anti-Tricker, and spoilers." Yes, Chevy Novas aren't crappy. My brother put a huge dent in a Honda when he hit it. Okay, that makes it good. LOL, no, lots of arguments over problems with the supernova and the size of the Empire presented to you in comments. I remember you discussing them in live streams. Well, most of the time, the people are arguing about the size and power of a supernova taking out the Empire, that it's not possible that a supernova could have taken out the Empire. So the purpose of that video was not to deal with every possible contingency. It was simply to put that main argument to rest. And anybody that wants to now continue to argue that is going against the facts. Period. Could Wonder Woman swing from a Romulan supernova on her lasso? Possibly. Have you seen the video about the Berman era of Trek, basically calling him a right-winger and stiffed social justice during his tenure? I've not seen that, and I find that laughable. What do Klingons... I mean, come on. Seriously, you're going to try and call anything in Trek right wing? What about the Klingons? They share a border with the Romulans and the Klingons still there. Also, this is sounding more and more like Founder's revenge scheme. Well, that could be. Kat Denning is more entertaining than Natalie Portman, and Darcy wanted Thor too, but I knew she was out of her league. Now that he's fat, she might have a chance. I'm not arguing that Kat Denning wasn't more entertaining. But I genuinely don't think that, you know, first of all, the comic book purists would be pissed off about that because it's not Jane Foster. And it's another thing, like, you know, Natalie Portman's ego, Chris Hemsworth's ego, everybody's ego. That's the problem in creativity these days. Ego is the ultimate enemy of creativity. And that we are seeing over and over in Star Trek, in Star Wars. And so, yeah, and that's probably why we have Jane Foster back. Back to my board causing a supernova. Maybe they underestimated the star Thuris, thus blowing it up in their face? Maybe they underestimated the star, thus blowing it up in their face? That I don't quite understand. I personally never argued for the nova. But my sticking issue was that the Romulans have one of the biggest fleets with the largest ships in all of Trek. Where the hell do they go and why? Okay. Please demonstrate why the Romulans have the largest fleet. Yes, the Warbirds are large ships in, but only in a way. Because if you look at the Warbird, the design of the Warbird, and I don't know if Captain Foley is still here, but if you look at the actual design of the Warbird, is the internal volume of a Warbird significantly more than a Galaxy-class ship? I don't know the answer to that. I haven't done the math. I'm sure that Captain Foley and Commander Hawkins have, but it would seem that the vast majority of the internal space of a Warbird is in that front nose area, because if you look, the internal volume of the ship is 99% hollow. There's nothing there, right? So, number one, big doesn't necessarily mean spacious. Number 10, let's see, I wonder if that is, because I just heard, let's see, that is, in fact, let's see. Hey, can you get the custom stickers on YouTube? Never mind, turns out you can't. Okay. Not significantly, no. It's about the same size as the Galaxy class. Thank you, Captain Foley. So that's what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure. So, a Romulan Warbird, which means, by the way, that 6,250,000 trips has now doubled to 12,500,000 trips, because it's really about the same size as the Galaxy class as far as internal volume. Now, as far as massive fleet, based on what exactly? Because we've seen a few of them at once. You know, because the Tal Shiar managed to get a decent number of them to attack the Founders' homeworld, which, by the way, all got wiped out. You know. So, Admiral Saval says the Romulan fleet, 25,000, which, with much of it being the large Derrida-class warbird. Admiral Saval, please show me in canon that 25,000 number. Please show me that. I would love to see that, because personally I think that you're making that number up, or you got it off of some unofficial source. But that's the point. It's, you know what, people are assuming it's this like massive fleet based on what exactly? We need to see actual numbers. And okay, so and by the way, much of it being the Derrida class, what is much of it? You know, so even if the Romulan fleet is 25,000 vessels, which I highly doubt, then how many of them are the Derrida class? Since Admiral Saval seems to know the answer, we'll see what he has to say. In Next Generation, if you look at Memory Alpha, states the Romulan Star Empire has 10 planets. Yes, 10 planets, but, you know, people have been trying to say there have been hundreds and all that because it's such a huge empire, even though it's clearly not. Greetings, Anti-Trigger fellow nerds, hashtag free anti. I thought phasers were phased energy weapons. We were talking about super lasers, actually, or not super lasers, but turbo lasers. Flago Field, says Peter, because I'm not sure what that means. There's a Chevy Nova SS, okay. Carlos says, when did the hate start? I think it was before Discovery. No, yeah, I think some of the hate started with Star Trek 2009, honestly. That's when the Trek hate really got started. Still waiting to hear from Admiral Saval on where he got the 25,000 number. Neelix caused the supernova by trying to heat up food. That could be. That actually makes a lot of sense. All hail Karoga Turtistan, says Admiral Saval. Well, there we know the numbers are inaccurate if he's a Karogan. 7 of 9 was unique. That's true, but yes. Do they use any phrasing in the Navy? I don't know. Script Doctor is here. Good to see you, Script Doctor. Oh, man, we're having an interesting discussion. You guys talking about the Romulan evacuations. Do we know the amount of time they had after the supernova starts and when it reaches its 50 light-year limit? Well, we know that from the time it starts, you would have 50 years. Because supernova, actually, the deadly radiation spreads at light speed. That we've confirmed with my physicist friend, Dr. Alex. And so, yes, the total amount of time would be 50 years from the time the nova actually starts, which means at the time of Picard, not all of the Romulan Empire has probably been wiped out, depending on how much the red matter thing stopped. I mean, we don't know the exact numbers and stuff, but unfortunately, they're probably never going to really get into that. But as far as evacuating the population of the Romulan planets would be very, very difficult. And I'm still waiting to hear from Admiral Saval on where he got 25,000 ships from. And so let's see. Built there but not on the ground. They could have used everything in space. Well, the manufacturing facilities were on the ground. We saw them. Do you think they consulted NASA for the creation, or the NSA, or I assume you mean NASA, for the creation of 7 of 9? No. You actually say you hate First Contact. What I meant, and I tried to clarify that many times, but nobody ever listens to me, is that I hate what they did to Picard. So, yeah. Let's see. Admiral Saval says, yes, they do. Say you're relieved, sir, and I stand relieved. Only can occur when a vessel CO has a mental breakdown, which is very rare in the U.S. Navy. I don't think that's quite it, but okay. I was talking about a Type 2 supernova trigger in regards to giants and supergiants, but there are other nova. Yes. Love the new animated background, but it seems you need something Trek yards in the background. Oh, well, what, Captain Foley? What exactly Trek yards do I need to put in the background? Will they ever get rid of the sunglasses by the 25th century? Apparently not. You think George Lucas consulted NASA for the creation of Jar Jar? No. I think he consulted his kids. I was looking to see more Dr. Alex videos as well as more Darren Wagner videos. I am looking forward to those as well. And script time, sorry for jumping back and forth, but I am trying to wrap things up. So once, trying to, with stuff that's pertinent to what we're talking about exactly. The script hazard says, I would agree. Also, I imagine priority would have been a few year limit. So we have to calculate a round trip in days, weeks to see how many could be saved before the supernova hits. Yes. But we do know that a minimum of 12,500,000 round trips would need to be executed. So let's do some math here. So let me see. So 12,500,000 round trips, assuming for a moment that first of all, well, even though it's ludicrous, assuming that Admiral Saval is correct and there are 25,000 ships in the Romulan Navy, and we'll say every single one of them has the capacity of a Diderdex ship, which is also quite impossible. That means that we could divide that by 25,000, and each Diderdex class ship would have to make 500 round trips, assuming there are 25,000 Diderdex ships, which I find laughable. It's all fiction anyhow, we just hope it makes sense within its own reality. That's very true. Tentacle says, why are you talking about military ships evacuating Romulans? Evacuation is done with civilian ships, merchant ships, and troop transports. Well, first of all, troop transports are military ships. Just putting that out there. And as far as the actual, what we've seen in Trek, it would appear that the warbirds, the Diderdex warbirds are the largest ships in the Romulan Empire, and that no civilian ship even comes close to the kind of capacity of that ship. Let's see, the Ambassador class was 30 to 40 years old by 2344, so they probably just decided to wait for the Galaxy class because it was an important project, Starfleet and the Federation. Well, it was the only other ship they developed! Admiral Sval says, Star Trek TNG Technical Manual. Okay. Not canon, but okay. And, fine. So they want to say that there's 25,000 Romulan ships in the TNG Technical Manual. Okay. What? I'll take your word for it. I don't remember ever hearing that, but okay. Back to it. Well, the big ego lost his life. I'm not sure what that means. If Romulans did things the Krogan way, Bird would say, we're about to be destroyed by a supernova. Rest assured, it will be okay. You could die knowing I will continue to live in luxury. That's very true. Tony Stark will we remember his sacrifice, indeed. You should have a shirtless Foley sitting in Spock chair. That would really be awesome. And I think somehow the thing jumped because now I missed a whole bunch of chat, and I apologize for that. But yeah, let's say Spock's action carried a minimum safe distance of 10 light years. How long would it take one ship to fill 10,000 people and move out of range at maximum warp? That's a good question. So to beam up 10,000 people to a ship would probably take, I would guess, at the very least days, probably weeks, to beam up 10,000 people, because you can't just beam up 1,000 people simultaneously. But let's say a week, just for fun. So a week to beam them up. Then we'll say, minimum safe distance would be 50 light years. Based on what we know, 1,000 light years is a year's journey based on Star Trek physics. So 50 light years, we'll say, take a couple of days, and then a week to beam them down, and then a couple of days back. So we'll say total round trip time, 3 weeks, right? So that means that to make 500 round trips per ship is 1,500 weeks, which means 28.8 years. Cutting it awful close, actually. So there you go. 28 years is what it would take for 20, and that's assuming, again, 25,000 warbirds, which, I'm sorry, Admiral Saval, that ain't real. But, so if they had 25,000 warbirds, That's what they would take. Warships have less passenger capacity than transports. However, you may be able to take more passengers. Well, here's the thing, Gary, is that I'm actually being very, very generous with this. This is assuming that the Warbird is capable of carrying as many people as a Galaxy-class starship, a starship designed to carry massive amounts of people. And I don't think that the Warbird is actually designed to carry massive amounts of people. So I'm being extremely generous. So, yeah. And so... and then Admiral Saval says, I have a limited edition of the tech manual that involves the Romulan Star Empire. Okay. No, and no, the 1970s, that's the Starfleet technical manual. I have that one. That one doesn't talk about the Romulan Empire at all. That actually does just talk about Starfleet. I don't own the TNG tech manual, and so I don't know. I know that Captain Foley does, but I don't know if he can confirm or deny any of those numbers. But I will tell you that just being a pragmatist about it, the idea of the Romulan Navy having 25,000 warbirds is laughable, all right? If that were the case, if the Romulan Empire actually had 25,000 warbirds, then they would have overrun the Federation 1,000 times over. Because do keep in mind that Wolf 359, the Federation struggled to get 40 ships to defend Earth. Script Doctor says, my thoughts as well, 3 to 4 weeks for one ship to do a round trip. If the supernova was stopped short of the 50-year light year, it would still take years for a sizable fleet to accomplish. Yeah, 28 years, to be honest. That's just crazy. It would not happen. And that's, by the way, assuming that you have, I mean, because remember, there are going to be, obviously, some planets can't be saved. Like the Romulan homeworld, it'll be gone like minutes after the supernova starts. But as far, and then you have outlying systems that you might have 1 year, right? If it's a light year away, it's like, you got 1 year, buddy, get as many people off that planet as you can. You know, there's, it realistically, yeah, not going to happen. And Admiral Saval says, the Daenerys has 1,250 crew and passengers. Wow, that changes everything. Okay. All right, so, Admiral, let's, no, now you retract the message because you realize what that just said. All right, so we're going to go by your numbers again. So, we'll just assume that there only requires one crew person, and we'll squeeze an extra person on. Okay, then you repost. Okay, so 1,250 crew. Wow, you just completely changed the ball game. So, let's do it again. So 5 billion people. All right. And so we're just going to evacuate the Romulan home, or well, actually, whatever the closest system to the Romulan homeworld. So they got 5 billion people, divided by 1,250 people per trip, which is 4 million trips now, divided by 25,000 warbirds, according to your numbers. Oh, now you're saying, wait, now, hold on, you're throwing different numbers. The Daenerys class has 1,250 crew and passengers, 1,500 officers and crew, plus troop. That's not, so, yeah. And so, but based on your numbers, so 25,000 warbirds means that, it becomes infinite. You're not going to get anybody out of there. Here's the problem, Admiral Saval, is that people grossly underestimate the scale of an event like this. Realistically, if you have billions of people to evacuate, all right, so you're wrong about the 1,250. So what's the actual number? 1,500? Is that what you're saying? What's the actual number, Admiral Saval? Don't just tell me you were wrong. You need to give me the correct information. Otherwise, we can't calculate anything. So, I'm giving you a chance here, Admiral Saval. You got about 30 seconds or I'm going to sign off and finish this live stream. So either give me the right information or don't. But I need to know exactly how many people can a Daenerys ship hold according to your information. Okay, 1,500. All right, so assuming 1,500 people on a Daenerys ship, that means that if you have a population to... just hold on, just accidentally hit that. All right, so go back here. All right, so you have 1,500 people times 25,000 ships means that you can evacuate 37,500,000 people per trip if you dedicate the entire Romulan fleet to it, right? And by the way, I know it says plus troops. What does that even mean? That's the problem. So we'll round it up and say 40 million per trip. So if we have 5 billion people on a planet, not an unreasonable number, and we'll divide that by 40 million people per trip, means 125 trips to evacuate one planet. All right, that's 125 trips, assuming every single ship in the fleet is dedicated to this, and every single ship in the fleet is a Daenerys class warbird. And I understand what you're saying about the Galaxy class, Captain Foley, but I'm just going off of what Admiral Saval was saying. So bear with me here. So we have 125 trips, and we already basically estimated that it's going to be about 3 weeks per trip. So we take that 125 and multiply it by 3 weeks. That's 375 weeks, which we divide that by 52 weeks in a year. 7.2 years to evacuate one planet. 7 years, which means that any Romulan planet within 7 light years of the supernova ain't going to get evacuated, at least not entirely. Tentacles, it's stupid to assume warbirds will be used and nothing else. Yeah, it's also stupid to assume they have 25,000 warbirds, which they don't. But, you know, that's the problem. Is that you really don't... here's the thing. People really don't understand the scale of these numbers. They really don't. They think, oh, come on. There are plenty of ships. Everybody's got a ship. Like, you know, because everybody owns a spaceship. It doesn't work that way. And by the way, everybody would have to own a warp-capable ship, which even in Picard they established not everybody has a warp-capable ship. 25 trillion warbirds can do it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So with that fun-filled note, I am going to wrap it up. I've been going for a really, really long time, and I am exhausted. Everybody owns a car, so everybody owns a spaceship. They are not analogous to each other, my friend. I'm sure you think they are. It would be more like everyone owning a jet plane today. Let's see. Not only that, how many ships could be in orbit? Well, I would assume 25,000 ships in orbit around a planet simultaneously, not a problem. Because that's another thing people really grossly underestimate is how big space is, right? Don't forget the animals. Animals are screwed. Not a single animal is going to get rescued. Not even so much as a Romulan parakeet is getting off that planet. So yeah. Anyway, guys, but yeah, it's owning a warp capable ship is not like owning a car, all right? Because it really isn't. If you look at in the Trek universe, it would be like owning a ship, a sailing ship, and not everybody owns a sailing ship. I know that's a news flash for everybody, but yeah, not everybody does. Cargo ships, you know, all that. Sorry, guys, it just doesn't work no matter how you cut it. And you can't drive your car across the ocean, so yeah, the sheer effing hubris, indeed. Oh, what a day. Okay, Thomas, you probably own enough ships by yourself.
Everything you've got. Taking a break from hate and JJ sure would help a lot.
And they would all have to have FTL to escape.
Wouldn't you like to just get laid? Sometimes you wanna go where all the Trekkies know your name, and they're always glad you came.
I know you have a lot of ships
Wanna
through,
be in a
Captain.
galaxy where Star Trek isn't lame. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. Turds of a feather flock together, that's what we believe. We know a place that's got you covered, a place to get relief. Wouldn't you like to say me prove? Sometimes you wanna go where Turnistanies know your name, and all Kurogans are to blame. You wanna be where you can see Kuroga go up in flames. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
You son of a bitch, anti-tracker!